Confiscated liquor in NCD to be sold off by the state if unclaimed. Shooting of mother of two in Leh mars peaceful New Year's. The island community continues age-old tradition to welcome 2015.
This is National EMTV News with Mary Bartulo.
Good evening and welcome. This is Friday's news. All alcohol confiscated by police in NCD and Central Province during the festive operations will be given to the state to sell off at a price determined by the courts. This will happen if owners fail to claim them after 6 months. But police say in most cases, owners of confiscated liquor usually do not turn up to claim them.
This footage shows some of the liquor which was confiscated by police since the start of the operations. Much of it was removed from unlicensed beer operators in residential areas and settlements in NCD. The removal of liquor in residential areas by police has caused residents in Port Moresby to question where all the liquor will go. But their assumptions and queries have proven that not a lot of people know where all confiscated items go once they come under police custody. In this case, if owners fail to claim the liquor, it will be submitted to the courts for disposal. What will happen is, the court, upon releasing a certificate of disposal, all liquor will be sold at whatever prices the courts decide, and monies collected will be given to the state. But if owners want to claim their liquor, they are requested to present their liquor licenses before it can be released to them. Meanwhile, the imposed ban in NCD will continue indefinitely, while the ban in Central Province will be lifted on Sunday, January 4th. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
PNG Waste Co. Company Director Dixon Samai today apologized to Port Moresby residents for the delay in non-collection of garbage in the city. Waste Co. is the contractor in charge of collecting domestic waste in NCD areas. This came after numerous complaints from city residents claiming that garbage had not been collected for nearly a month. Mr. Samai explained that they have limited resources to get back on track. People produced 3 to 4 times more rubbish last festive season than on normal days. Today, they are doing backloads by collecting rubbish created during the festive season. He says they resume normal duty tomorrow. Illegal settlers occupying the 8-mile Moitaka swamp area, portion number 1468, were told to vacate the area on Wednesday. This land belongs to the Department of Agriculture and Livestock and is still undergoing development for the new housing project. But with the New Year preparations, the eviction was unsuccessful.
A 1-month eviction notice was issued in November last year by the Department of Agriculture and Livestock to a group of settlers illegally occupying the Moitaka swamp area. The eviction notice was served for them to vacate the area by December 31, 2014, or be dealt with by the rule of law if they refused to leave. The settlers were willing to leave but wanted the Department of Agriculture and Livestock to extend the eviction date to give them time to look for a new place to resettle. These illegal settlers have been living there for more than 25 years. Today, they live and grow food crops on this land and call it their home village. Some parts of the land have already been developed into building DAL staff accommodation, a project that has been outstanding for over 15 years. Meanwhile, informal settlements have grown in Port Moresby as urbanization continues to put stress on the city's housing and service infrastructure. The settlers at 8-mile Moitaka swamp area want the government to look into the issue of illegal settling and provide legal land for people like them to settle on. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News.
A woman was shot dead while driving her vehicle on New Year's Eve along the backroad area outside Leh City. The mother of two was shot in the head after being chased by police and security vehicles. The bullet was fired from behind her vehicle, penetrated through the glass and struck her in the head. The vehicle showed evidence of a bullet hole at the rear window and on the rim of one of the tires. Family members of the young woman are still in shock and are awaiting a post-mortem report to clarify the fatal injuries sustained. Witnesses who saw what happened refused to comment on camera on the shooting. Leh's Metropolitan Superintendent Ivan Lakatani says a formal statement will be released on Monday following investigations. You're watching National MTV News. Coming up after the break, Fisherman Island in Port Moresby carries on a long-held tradition to welcome the new year. Stay tuned for that story and more when we return. Welcome back to the news. New Year's celebrations on Fisherman Island outside of Port Moresby included committing the community to being a better people and lots of giving. Following tradition, the islanders welcomed 2015 with fun and games and sharing of gifts and food.
The festive spirit on Fisherman's Island carried into the new year. The celebration started at 8 p.m. on New Year's Eve with entertainment provided by the different clans on the island. This continued into a New Year church service hosted by the United Church. The church service ended with the congregation committing to leave behind bad habits. As dawn broke on New Year's Day, the clan in charge of organizing celebrations carried out the traditional New Year's washing. They splashed some with water and threw others into the sea. As dictated by custom, those being washed will be a gift for the organizers. It can come in the form of new clothing items which they will wear at the time of the washing. Kwamanuma clan, who hosted this year's celebrations, were very happy with how the day turned out.
Put our heads together and we contributed and it has come up to today, and it's really amazing, you know. Awesome that this year we have done things that we also believed ourselves that we were not expecting to do. So.
The day was full of activities that included sea races and other sports. But the main event was the sharing of food and gifts. The organizing clan gave each of the other 4 clans tents full of household items and uncooked food to share amongst themselves. Visitors on that day were impressed with the celebrations.
Well, Fisherman Island is different from Anobara. Like, it's a different atmosphere here. Like, the people are very friendly, and especially like kids are enjoying it here. That's why I brought my family here to enjoy.
The islanders and their visitors closed the first day of 2015 with a huge feast. Sarah Aupong, National MTV News.
City rangers enforcing the betel nut ban in Port Moresby have been warned to adhere to the betel nut law and regulations when performing their duties. This concern comes following an incident last week when a youth at Waigani Market was apprehended by city rangers in relation to betel nut consumption. He was taken to the police station by the rangers, but on-duty police said there was no law on Betel Nut Act that gives right to the city authorities to charge anyone with betel nut stained mouth. The resident said some actions of the NCD betel nut enforcers are illegal and not covered in the Betel Nut Act. The victim, who did not want to reveal his identity, appealed to NCD's City Watch group to understand clearly all aspects of the Betel Nut Act before enforcing them. Landowner groups from Papa Village near the LNG project site along the Motuan coastline in Central Province have demanded payment of outstanding royalties from the government. They claim that they have not received their equity payments ever since the first shipment of the liquefied natural gas in October 2014.
Papa landowners said after 56 million tons of liquefied natural gas was shipped overseas, they have not received any royalties from the government to this date. The only payment they got from the government is the 10 million kina land compensation payment.
The benefits will be flown in, but until now, we're still waiting, hoping.
The impacts of this project on the environment have greatly affected the lives of the people in the area. Much of the land and seas were used to build plant facilities for this project. These areas are traditionally used by locals for fishing, hunting and gardening.
Because before livelihood, mainly survival, fishing, hunting, gardening, most of the time fishing and gardening.
While major developments are underway, land grabbing is another issue experienced by the locals. Foreign companies affiliated to this LNG project have taken over the lands without proper consultation. As a result, gardening and fishing, which were once priority activities in the area, have decreased. The only spill of benefit is casual jobs with companies attached to this project. Water supply is a major problem in the village. Locals have been using containers to fetch water for cooking, drinking and washing since before the project began. Meanwhile, they are expecting the government to settle their queries in due course. Eric Arupma, National EMTV News.
Bulolo district in Morobe province faced a lot of challenges in 2014, and 2015 will have its own challenges. Bulolo MP Sam Basil says the district will be featured as a blueprint for other rural districts in the country. The district now owns a plane and is looking at reviving its air services into some of its rural areas.
2014 was a challenging year for Bulolo district. First, the clash between the Watut and Sipik settlers that left houses burnt and hundreds of Sipik families homeless. Then came the district's financial nightmare when the National Finance Department withheld the district's money. But that did not stop the district from delivering to its people. The most outstanding achievement of Bulolo district was the rural electrification project in the Watut LLG. Following that was the commissioning of several bridges, linking some of the isolated parts of the district with the provincial capital in Bulolo. And just recently, the district bought a new plane and reopened some of its rural airstrips.
Big projects activate North Coast Aviation subsidy air freight and fare subsidy program Bulolo district want North Coast Aviation.
For the district's MP Sam Basil, running a district like Bulolo wasn't an easy task. 6 LLGs scattered in isolated areas with a population density of over 15,000 men, women and children.
This player, Bami Lugruk Molo, cleaning up all the roads for local level governments. Me play put him machine finished as well. Plan the working come up good because plan the local level government managers already got thinking blow work where only maximum administration.
While the district continued on from 2014, this year may have its own challenges, Sam Basil says. A road plan has already been drafted. It will cut through the rugged terrain, linking Warrior local level government with Bulolo. Not only that, the first fleet of the Spirit of Bulolo will start its service into these rural LLGs for the first time in many years. Colleen Barilai, National EMTV News, Leh.
And now a look at the finance news. The kina closed unchanged at $0.3855 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3780 $0.4590 Australian dollars, $0.3090 euro, and 44.85 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, coffee closed higher, gold, cocoa, and copper closed lower. Copper closed higher, crude oil closed lower, and palm oil closed the day unchanged. And on the stock markets, the Dow Jones closed at 160 points lower, the ASX closed at 5 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed at 11 points lower. You're watching National EMTV News. The first victim of the Air Asia flight tragedy laid to rest in Indonesia, and a look at what you must have in gadgets this year. Those and other stories making headlines overseas when we return. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, and the first victim of Air Asia Flight 8501 has been laid to rest in Indonesia. So far, only 9 bodies have been recovered as bad weather continues to restrict the recovery mission.
Well, weather conditions are frustrating rescuers at the moment. The recovery operation is being hampered by this. Over the last 2 days, they have been continuing to have high seas, strong winds and heavy rain, and that's expected to continue today and even tomorrow. Now, so far, 9 bodies have been retrieved. One of those bodies last night was identified. The body was then returned to her family, and then last night she was buried. Emotional scenes, her mother distraught understandably, but her sister-in-law saying that they thank God for the fact that the body has been been retrieved, and she hopes that other bodies can be retrieved and returned to their families as well. So if weather conditions can improve today, then they're hoping to put divers into the water, but they're not holding their breath at the moment, rescue officials, because they're saying that they're expecting weather conditions once again to be very challenging. If they can get into the water, there is assistance from international vessels as well, and equipment that they have now able to track the black box and detect the black box. So hopefully, our fingers are crossed, of course, that the weather conditions can improve and then we can have some progress. But at the moment, it is becoming a very frustrating mission, of course, for the family members involved as they wait to hear more answers.
Syria's President Bashar al-Assad has made a rare public appearance visiting troops on the front line of the country's civil war. He thanked the soldiers for fighting in the face of terrorism.
Syrian television broadcast the footage with a soundtrack of patriotic music. This was a major event, the first time Bashar al-Assad has been seen visiting his troops for more than a year.
I wanted to come here specifically to be with you when we say goodbye to 1 year and welcome a new one. I wanted to be with you to salute you and every soldier and volunteer who is carrying their weapon to fight terrorists everywhere in Syria and on all front lines where we're defending our country against terrorists.
Even as he spoke, occasional gunfire could be heard in the background. This is one of many front lines in what seems a war without end. Everywhere he went, he wished the soldiers a happy new year. Syrian television said this was filmed in the Damascus suburb of Jobar, which was captured by rebel forces in 2013 and which Assad's troops are trying to reclaim. The president claimed that life was continuing as normal just a short distance from here and told them that the rebels were living underground like rats.
You've got a larger number of people now, the non-Muslims, the secular Muslims, the merchant class, the people who are worried that Syria might become like Libya, are now supporting him. So I would say his support, probably more than a third, could be up to 40% internally.
The loyalty of his military has kept Assad in power, despite an uprising which has lasted nearly 4 years. And his air force continues to kill rebels and civilians using barrel bombs which have drawn international condemnation. This was footage uploaded to social media this week and said to be in the cities of Homs and Dera. Anti-Assad forces continue to fight, but are poorly equipped and disunited. Alliances are formed and then soon fall apart. But this week, a newly merged group of rebels attacked regime headquarters in Aleppo. However, Assad has benefited from the coalition airstrikes against Islamic State, which continued right into the final hours of 2014. The broadcast ended with footage of Assad enjoying a meal with his soldiers. 2014 was a year when observers say more than 76,000 of his people were killed. As 2015 dawns, his position seems to have strengthened, even as his country crumbles around him.
Australian journalist Peter Grest and his Al Jazeera colleagues were jailed for spreading false news. The trio have been granted a new trial date, but for now have been refused bail and forced to await the fresh hearing behind bars.
They've just marked a year in an Egyptian prison, but the three Al Jazeera journalists will remain behind bars after being granted a retrial. Cameras weren't allowed inside the appeals court and the session lasted barely an hour. Lawyers said the judge accepted the appeal, rendering the original trial, which sentenced the journalist to 7 to 10 years in prison, null and void.
The verdict is away from any legal reason. I couldn't understand how somebody wrote such this verdict.
One of the defendants, acting bureau chief Mohammed Fahmy, released this picture on Twitter from his hospital bed where he's receiving treatment for a broken shoulder. A note on his page said, "A retrial is a milestone toward victory in our free press battle. Our spirits are bulletproof." Emotional family members said the news was expected but still disappointing.
Me and Mohammed will keep fighting till the end. It's a very long battle. A retrial means it's a lengthy process. It can take up to a year. I can't even imagine that Mohammed will stay for a year in prison.
I was expecting, yes, a retrial, but I was expecting with that a release. today. We were really hoping for that. We wanted Mohammed to come with us home today.
Peter Greste, Mohammed Fahmi and Behir Mohammed from Al Jazeera English were sentenced in June for belonging to or aiding the Muslim Brotherhood. The verdict caused outrage among journalists and politicians. The trial was criticized by rights organizations for being highly politicized. At the time, the military was carrying out a massive crackdown on the opposition and all forms of dissent. Irrelevant evidence such as family photos and reports produced by other networks were presented as evidence by the prosecution. The judge decided to grant an appeal because the original trial didn't follow due process. Now it's up to another court to decide on when the retrial will start. But it could take some time for another verdict. The hope now is that the trial is expedited. The fear is that they will spend many more months unjustly behind bars.
Well, the new year is bound to bring a swag of new technology. So if you need to keep up with the new tech, here's a look at the must-have gadgets for 2015.
Great minds are changing the future of technology. Innovation is everywhere. It's amazing.
Awesome. But is any of that going to make my life better this year?
Well, maybe. First, if studies are to be believed, more than a quarter of iPhone users have a cracked screen.
Oh, man.
But get this, Apple has just filed a patent to use the sensors inside the phone, the gyroscope and the accelerometer, to detect when a phone is dropping, and then mid-air use the vibration motor to change the phone's position and avoid a glass-down impact.
You're going to see manufacturers really get smart about how people are actually using this stuff and protecting against more common sort of damage and drops and spills.
And maybe with the coming of Apple's watch in 2015 and the rise of other wearable tech, we'll be pulling our phones out of our pockets less and less in this next year anyway. A few other geeky innovations. Stanford and Google are teaming up to teach computers how to describe photos. A machine described this image accurately as
2 pieces of pizza sitting on a stove,
and this as
a person riding a motorcycle on a dirt road.
Why, you ask, will this make your life better?
Oh man, img-0034.jpg. That was fun. That was the time we were at the beach? No, that's DSC/0064.jpg. Ooh, good times.
Another innovation we should see in 2015, faster Wi-Fi. I'm talking 5 times faster.
Phew, because I've had like 4 lattes waiting for this big file to download. I'm a little jumpy.
Now that faster Wi-Fi will really help as we add more connected devices to our homes. And about that smart home.
I think we're at the very beginning of having a completely smart house. I think we're at the very beginning stages of putting sensors in things.
Connected thermostats, connected smoke alarms, connected sprinkler systems.
I do love this one. They know when it's raining, so they don't turn on.
And of course the connected personal gadgets, sleep trackers, fitness trackers, and dental hygiene trackers.
It's tracking how long I brush. Uh-oh, I hope it's not sending that info to my dentist.
Now cars. If you're hoping for that self-driving car in 2015, maybe not.
The technology for self-driving cars is ready. It's already being used. The big question is, who's at fault when the stuff breaks? And that's really what the legislation is there to solve.
But we do expect to see a lot more in the electric car space in 2015, including new concepts from Nissan and Tesla's Model X SUV that both have everyone in the auto industry excited.
People know that the next generation of how we get around is coming, and electric cars solve that problem in a really interesting way and, importantly, reduce costs for the consumer.
Okay, 2015, you've piqued my interest.
And that story ends our news segment. When we come back, we'll have for you Trukai Sports. Stay tuned.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. With just 184 days remaining till the start of the 2015 Pacific Games, much of the construction work done on venues is beginning to look promising. Although doubts remain on the completion and use of the Ritaflin indoor netball courts, work at the Bicini Parade has been excavated, with the soccer and rugby fields expected to be completed in May. The Monia Rugby Park has not received a facelift for almost a decade. 2015 Pacific Games is set to see an upgrade of the park and its facilities. The home of Rugby Union in Port Moresby will have 2 standard Rugby Union ovals with steel fabricated grandstands for spectators. For the duration of the Pacific Games, the PNG RFU office will not be in operation, as all venues are to be handed over to the Pacific Games Committee throughout the 2-week competition period. 2015 will see changes in the ranking and status of our national sporting teams, one of those being the PNG Pukpuks. Most successful and consistent 15s coach for the Defence Rugby Union Club and now national coach of the Pukpuks, Sydney Wesley, has the chance to prove his selection and credibility to the rest of Papua New Guinea this year. Sydney's long-term goal is improving the standard of 15s competition nationwide, where players will have the chance to be selected from centres outside of the usual Lae and Port Moresby. For now, he will focus on selecting a wide player base following trials expected to be held in Kokopo and Port Moresby between January and February.
The boys are currently training, the Moresby boys. They've been knocked off for the festive season, but they're still doing their own little training. And I'm always keeping in touch with the guys in Daru, in Lae, in Rabaul, and in Goroka. And everybody's pretty much gearing up for the big camp. That'll be from the 9th of February to 15th, and I think a couple of days after that, the squad will be announced to Singapore, and that is in preparation for the Oceania Championship a couple of weeks after the ESP Games.
Following reports made in the Fiji Sun newspaper, judo will not be a part of Team Fiji at the 2015 Pacific Games. These claims came about when Fiji Judo Association President Nathanieli Takayawa said the Rio 2016 Olympic Games was their main objective. The team's focus for Fiji 2015 will be on the Oceania Judo Union Championships and World Judo Championships in Kazakhstan. The withdrawal of Fiji's judo team would give PNG Judo a better chance of performing well at the Games come July. I'll be back with Trukai Sports after these messages.
Boys are currently training, the Moresby boys.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. The PNG Men's Premier Basketball Champions, KSS Flames, are hoping for another successful 2015 season. Despite their season debut last year, the club already stole the show and would like to keep it that way this season.
It was not an easy bid for the team who had just made it onto the scene. Going up against big names like Tamaros, Exodus, Chariots and Saints, in the PNG semi-professional men's basketball league competition has drawn class, sheer determination, commitment and discipline. For this young club, discipline was the driving force behind the success.
Being these three, it was a good plus to our team. And if you look at our team, we have most of them from Southern Highlands. To me, it's encouraging because having most of them from outside from the big competition, like they never played in PNBL, it's encouraging. Even though it was a very hard season for us, you know, because my way of discipline is quite very different. I apply everything I did from my Hikari football team to them.
Voni says despite the club still in the infancy stage in the competition, signs of maturity can already be seen with the players and the management who are not new to the basketball arena.
We have an invitation from Solomon Islands to go and play the national team this month or next month. Lord willing, see how we will go from there. And if the team, because we're going to start training now this coming week, we have to work hard to play against the national side of Solomon Islands, then might be in Fiji, Australia.
So far, 5 players from the club were selected into the national squad for the Pacific Games in July. The club president, Kevin Teme, is optimistic to set another benchmark for this season.
We're not only looking at this year's competition or one season type of thing, but we are looking at the long run where our young ones can come up and probably develop basketball to the next stage, which basketball deserves to.
Teme, who is also the 22nd SP Sports Award recipient for Sports Reporter of the Year, will no longer be seen on the court as he turns his focus more to the management role. Tere Alex, National EMTV Sports.
To soccer, and one of Papua New Guinea's most decorated players, Hekari striker Kema Jack speaks about his experience playing for his country, his beloved Hekari, and how 2015 could be his last year. In an exclusive interview speaking from his home in Kaporoko village, Central Province, Kema reveals he is still hopeful of playing for the country one last time.
From his demeanor, Kema appears relaxed and comfortable, sitting outside the front of his house. Growing up in a rural setting hasn't been easy, and having represented both club and country internationally only makes him more fascinating.
I was the only central in all the Highlands players. So when crowd gather around and watch the game, like they were saying that if you want to watch rugby, come to Bisini because there's a team called South Sea, because you know they were all muscle people, and like I have lots of experience through coaches, you know. Like Brazilian type of playing, Scotland type of playing, New Zealand type of playing, Fiji type of playing, you know. So when you put everything together, it's like simple to use.
A highlight of his career has been traveling to Dubai, as Hekari became the first Pacific club outside of Australia and New Zealand to play in the Club World Cup.
There were only 3 Papua New Guineans, like the team was Hekari, but there were only 3 Papua New Guinean players playing for Hekari at that time. That was David Muta, Korea Kupaiga, and myself. All those players were all international players. But that was good. We had a good run.
His mentors, John and Vonnie Capinato, have been among the greatest inspirations of his life, and he gives a lot of credit to them for his career.
They always encourage me that discipline is the key to everything, in sports, in your life, everything. So when I followed those footsteps, like that's where I became somebody else.
Scoring goals has become a norm for him, bagging the Golden Boot Award on more than one occasion.
That's 3 consecutive. NSL, that's 2006 and 7, 8 and 9, 10 and 11.
Wearing the colors of the country has also been a privilege for this man from the village.
Last 4 years ago, I was the vice captain for PNG squad. I was the vice captain. David Muta was the captain. I was the vice captain. So I don't think it's going to be hard for me to, you know, but the only thing is it's our home game. I mean, home ground. You know, all the crowd will be at the back of us, and we are holding the flag of Papua New Guinea.
The year of the Pacific Games could be his last, his focus shifting toward developing more of his own people to reach the heights that he has. Jeremy Mogi, National, EMTV Sports.
To soccer abroad now, and Liverpool captain Steven Gerrard is set to leave the club when his contract expires at the end of the season, and he could be headed to the US to play. In the A-League, Wanderers fans have turned on their own team following a 0-0 draw with the Mariners, leaving the Western Sydney side winless and anchored to the bottom of the ladder.
Wonderland turned woeful.
Angry words exchanged.
Ugly scenes at Parramatta Stadium when Wanderers fans turned on their players.
Clearly some of those Wanderers fans are not happy with what they've just witnessed.
Ante Kovic and Shannon Cole involved in the heated clash, with security forced to step in. The altercation came after the 0-0 draw with the Mariners. 12 games in and the Western Sydney side are yet to win a match.
We just got to keep moving on. We've got to keep moving on. We've got to, you know, I certainly won't lose any belief. The players haven't lost any belief. Yeah, they will get rewarded for those performances. It's not happening at the moment, but yeah, we move on to the next game.
Fans causing trouble in the EPL as well. An Arsenal supporter having words with coach Arsene Wenger after his team suffered their first loss in 5 games, going down to Southampton 2-0. A nightmare start to the year for Chelsea, suffering a shock 5-3 loss to Tottenham.
How big a night is this for Tottenham?
Chelsea now joined at the top of the table by Man City, who overcame Sunderland 3-2. It was a frantic second half with 5 goals scored in 16 minutes.
He does what he does, and he's done it time after time after time.
And Manchester United extended their unbeaten run to 10 matches, playing out a 1-1 draw with Stoke.
That's everything in our news and sports for today. I'll have your weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow when we come back.
Kai Sports. True Kai Sports.
This weather information is brought to you by Tablebirds.
Taking a look at the weather forecast for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region, Port Moresby, rain with possible thunderstorms overnight, showers for Daru, evening showers for Kerma, showers tonight for Alatau, and rain and thunderstorms for Popondetta. To the Momasi region, all centres you can expect rain except for Lae, you will have rain and thunderstorms. To the New Guinea Islands region, Lorengau, you can expect rain and thunderstorms, showers for Kavieng, Rabaul and Kimbe, and showers and thunderstorms for Buka. And to the Highlands region, all centres you can expect rain and thunderstorms. Taking a look at the forecast for small ships, all seas 0.5 to 1.3 meters, except waters of East New Britain to New Ireland, seas 1 to 2 meters. Taking a look at the ocean forecast for PNG waters, Coral Sea sees rather rough with easterly winds at 20 to 25 knots. Solomon Sea sees slight with clockwise winds at 10 to 15 knots. Bismarck Sea sees slight with northwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. And Pacific Ocean sees slight with northwest to westerly winds at 10 to 15 knots. And to end the news, recapping our main headlines again. Confiscated liquor in NCD to be sold off by the state if unclaimed. Shooting of mother of two in Lae mars peaceful New Year. And island community continues age-old tradition to welcome 2015. And that's been National EMTV News this Friday, the 2nd of January 2015. You have a safe weekend. Good night.